What? Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.
Oh, nowhere you'd rather be than locked in with fantasypoints.com on a hot, regular, ready to go Tuesday night. But this is no regular Dynasty Points. See, today we're adding something a little bit fun. See, we like to be transparent on this program. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Joining me as always is Jakob. I'm getting a little bit older. Sanderson finding ways to hurt himself during rec league activities. We have Ryan Heath not going to be here next week, so we have to get a 2x crash out this week on 5 for 5. And Mr. College Football Defender himself, Lucas Gilbert, known Sam Howell Truther. Today, we are going to do something that we don't do very often. We're going to talk about some late round sleeper picks on this show. Some of our favorite picks in the 12th rounds or later. We're going to talk about some late round fade picks, as you can see here on the screen for our visual audience. And obviously, the Dynasty Q&A, that's going to be here all off season for the most part. You leave a question, we're going to pin it. We're going to answer them all kind of one after the other. And of course, for YouTube audience only, another exciting episode of 5 for 5. I'm ready to go. Now, earlier I mentioned we're going to do something a little bit new. We are doing the Dynasty Points comment report. These are our favorite comments left on both podcast and YouTube comment feeds, and we're here to make sure the product is as good as can be. And to do that, we must really face all of the comments, good and bad. We're gonna start off with a comment from Matthew Davis 3014, like Caesar's siege of Elysia, huh? I said this perfectly last week, and I'm gonna screw it up, but Vercingetorix out of here 15 minutes in and getting sick of the grab ass. We can just have boring intros like, hey guys, how are you doing today? Instead, we like to mix it up. We like to have some fun. So unfortunately, if that's not for you, you could skip ahead a little bit, but we understand. We get that that's not for everyone.
Got a lot more grab ass coming up here in this intro. Don't worry about it.
I don't even know what that means. I don't know what the
grab ass means either, but
hopefully someone can explain it, because I don't want to Google it. I don't want to get put on a watch list. So we have Kenneth.
I think it's like broing out. Like you're just hanging out with your bros and you're grabbing ass.
All right. Maybe that's not for everybody. Kenneth Dixon, running back. Just kidding. Kenneth Dixon, 6458, said, nothing tells you who doesn't watch college football in the fantasy football streets like mispronouncing a Heisman candidate's last name. First off, this podcast is hosted by a moron. We can just, look, out of the 3 other people on this program, I am without a doubt the least educated. My graduating high school average was under 50. That's why it took me 3 extra years to get there. Okay, and let's just skip past that part and just get right to I can't even tell you we were talking about this beforehand. I don't even know who the Heisman candidates were last year, let alone the last 5. I don't care. I do not care. I do not need to care, and I will not care. That's why Lucas is here. Lucas is here so I never have to care about college football.
I will say, going after Cam Scatabo as the Heisman finalist when he wasn't invited to New York, that might be a little bit of a stretch to make your point there.
There you go.
Yes, Cam Scatabo is obviously very relevant to fantasy right now. Mispronouncing somebody's name doesn't necessarily directly correlate back to not knowing who that player is.
Correct.
Sometimes we just mess those things up, but invoking the 5th place finalist, I don't know if that makes your point.
All right. Well, I'm just saying we're open to all criticism, so we're welcoming it. Now, we also have from @Dunritos1, 15 minutes of chatting about their startup is such a waste of time. Skip that. I don't want to hear about that. You guys can chat pre-show. Well, boy, speaking of which, Jakob and Ryan, you guys
a lot of complaints about Ryan. I try to do a good thing. I believe in bringing friends together. It's I had a group of high school friends. Then I started to work at RW and Co. Made some friends there. And I'm thinking, you know what? My dad pays for HBO. So why don't I bring everybody together? We'll watch Game of Thrones, right? This group of friends have stayed together ever since. We call ourselves the Western Bros because we're so cool.
A lot of grab ass.
That's the kind of spirit that I have about male friendship. And so I figure, you know what? I'm doing this startup with, a bunch of guys that I play a lot of Dynasty with. Why don't I bring Ryan into this? Why don't I bring Ryan into the startup? And Ryan has not gotten great reviews. I mean, taking a lot of time on the clock, pretty shady offers. A lot of verbal commitments to trades that are being backed out of. Just all in all, not the kind of guy you want to play fantasy football with. And I don't know how the invites are going to go in the future. I'll just put it that way. It's been a tough first impression for Mr. Heath.
All right, I got to defend myself here. I have no idea to this day what the verbal commitments thing is. I don't know what I verbally committed to and backed out of. I'm still a little bit unclear on that.
This didn't start with you. This started with Dan Campbell, not the real Dan Campbell, but he verbally committed to a trade with Jake and then backed out of it. And then you did a kind of a half commit later on with me and Jake independently. And then it really just started to spiral out of control. That's when I had to write your name into the Dynasty burn book.
Yeah. Right. So everybody's aware, Jakob is upset that I didn't want to swing a 3-way trade in which we would be sending.
It's not what you did, it's how you went about it. It's about the process.
So Jacob's angry. He's like, oh, I didn't know that this was a 3-way trade. Why didn't you just tell us? We could have gotten in a group chat and figured it out. Yeah. And 2 hours later, lo and behold, the other 2 managers have just made a trade without me, which is exactly why I did not tell each of them what I was trying to pull there. Jacob, but yeah, as soon as I realized, I'm not actually going to gain value on this trade, and I don't want to sit here and do a 3-way trade with 2 different people instead of doing my job today. I was like, you know what? Never mind. I'm going to pick Baker and Dak. Good luck. And there was a lot of anger. There were some Mean Girls inspired memes made out of this.
Yeah, it leaked onto the Twitter street to the point where I was tagged telling me to get in between. I was like, I don't make enough money to get in between.
Yeah, there's comparisons to Elon and Trump.
Yeah, it was getting extreme on
I'm considering canceling your government contract. You're threatening to decommission rockets.
It was something to
I heard Ryan Heath is in the Epstein files.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. You know what? I bet you I'm waiting for the comment that's going to be posted for next week.
We're gonna have to deport Jakob back to Canada after this podcast.
Oh my God!
It'll be a big move from my current house in Canada.
Yeah, I'll be staying whether you like it or not. Yeah, Arnold gets a joke. Fire this clown. Funny you mentioned that. We've had that just for our comments on Rome, which I thought was utterly hilarious. But look. Obviously, we love when you guys like and comment on the stream. It boosts us. It helps us a lot. Even the negative helps us a lot, and it always gives us something new to talk about. We do take criticism seriously, and we do welcome it, but we do enjoy having a ton of fun on this podcast. And whether it's grab ass or just bros being bros, we do look forward to this show every single week. So keep the comments coming. You can leave them on Spotify. You can leave them here on YouTube as soon as the podcast has finished. That being said, I think we take a quick little break here and get into some late round sleeper picks before the chat goes absolutely feral. Sit tight. We'll be right back. We obviously need to know who's kind of a good value pick, and we could always just harp on the favorites, right? The same guys that you see dished out in every content cycle, every content wave, the most maybe obvious picks. Zach Charbonnet, or I could sit here and say Matthew Stafford every single week because I'll just be right. We can pick the easy ones. Not here, not tonight. Tonight, we walk away with some of our favorite picks that maybe not everyone has been talking about. So to start this off, I'm going to pitch it to Lucas. Lucas, we're looking at picks you can make right now using May and June ADP that maybe not everyone has already heard 100 different times.
Yeah, so the first name that I saw that really got my attention was Marshawn Lloyd on here. He's currently going in round 17, RB 59.
Is this
I'm going to be back
again. We're doing Marshawn Lloyd slop.
It's June, baby.
Why not? The situation I think is only better for him at this point. It's not gotten worse. He did nothing to hurt his value other than not play last season. If you're getting him at round 17 for somebody who is arguably the most explosive running back in last year's class, I'm perfectly okay with doing that. I think that that's basically a free pickup. And I could go into a lot more of these second-year running backs that are all going around the same range. I'm perfectly okay with people hitting those like way after round 12 at this point. But trying to then look at some different options, I really like Adam Thielen with where he's going, which is basically free, because I think people are forgetting what his end of the season was like. He's going in round 20, wide receiver 86, and he put up multiple 20-point weeks for you over the last 5 weeks of the season whenever he came back from his injury. His first game back was kind of a dud as he was getting back into the swing of things. He only had 4 targets, but every single game after that, he had at least 6 targets. He only had 2 times that he finished below 10 fantasy points in the game. And one of those was in week 18, whenever nobody is playing. So I think that that's somebody, especially as Ted McMillan slowly gets into the fold in Carolina. I really am intrigued with what Adam Thielen's going to do to start the season. And if you're wanting one more kind of late round pick, I think people should absolutely be stashing Kirk Cousins at round 18, quarterback at number 39. Just take the free value there, because you know that if he gets traded, his value is immediately going to go up. Somebody who's in desperate need of a quarterback is going to be sending out offers. I don't think you're going to get anything too crazy. Don't stash him thinking that you're going to get a future first, but it's not out of the realm of possibility to potentially get a future second. Or if you're just getting future thirds, multiple maybe from somebody who's desperate, yeah, that's absolutely somebody you should be stashing on your rosters.
Yeah, I am absolutely always going to pick free quarterbacks. I like free quarterbacks. Not as enthusiastic about Adam Thielen as you might be, but at the same time, again, free is free. And every year we talk about the death of Adam Thielen, and yet he just scores touchdowns. So,
I mean, yeah, he had 3 touchdowns over the final 6 weeks there. So it wasn't even touchdowns that were giving him points. He was just basically the only target that Bryce Young had and was feeding him. I don't think that Ted McMillan as a prospect is going to be immediately ready to light up the NFL. And I'm not expecting a full season performance out of him. But if you're getting half a season averaging over 13 fantasy points a game, and you're getting that in, was this the 20th round of your startup draft, absolutely I'm going to be doing that.
Yeah, there's value to that. The 20th round of a startup is just like, it's super disgusting. Very disgusting. All right, Jacob, let's see what you got.
All right, I got 2 receivers.
Young Joker.
No, not picking Kadarius Toney for this. I think it's over for him. He actually retired. He announced on Instagram that he's pursuing a full-time rap career.
Okay. Good luck.
So you are using the correct name. He is predominantly going as Young Joker, the Kadarius Toney era. is over. I got 2 wide receivers for you. One as more of a value investment bet, and one as more of a points bet. The value one, the Cokeheads are loving this.
Oh my God.
I got Jalen Coker. He had a very, very fun rookie season. Emerged as pretty decisively the second most productive Panthers wide receiver down the stretch behind Adam Thielen, who is going to be 35 years old this year. And emerges as probably the wide receiver 4 for the Panthers in week 1 with the Trey McBride pick there that has really stifled the Coker hype train. But look, I was not that I really liked Xavier Legette, but I was like a Xavier Legette optimist to the extent that he was basically free as a first-round pick in seasonal leagues last year. But he was not good. All of the haters and the losers were totally correct about the limitations on Xavier Legette's game.
The spreadsheet's new, man.
The spreadsheet's new. He didn't really show anything last year that was beyond what we would have expected from his prospect profile. He looked like a gadgety player that needs a ton of role tailoring to succeed in any perspective in the NFL. And the guy who outproduced him basically as soon as they started running similar route shares was the UDFA Jalen Coker. Especially impressive about him in an offense that, it was better down the stretch, but not like anybody would think of the Panthers as this elite, high-flying efficiency machine. 10.62 yards per target, and on a 0.17 targets per out run, had 1.83 yards per out run. That's according to the Fantasy Points data suite, because it's a Fantasy Points show, and because PFF's yards per out run database has been like completely unusable for a week. So, figure it out. Blair Andrews of RotoViz has done a lot of research on this, and specifically on rookies who produce very efficiently. And this applies especially for rookies with low draft capital, or in Coker's case, no draft capital. Even if the volume earning is not quite at the predictive level that we want it, if they're able to earn relative to their teammates really high yards per target, really high yards per route run, they're able to score touchdowns at a high rate. These are players that tend to get more routes and more opportunities over time. And so I'm very interested in Coker. I think it's like not that dissimilar of a bet to Wicks from last year, which obviously didn't really work, but is at a much lower price tag than I think Wicks was going at. And from like a best ball perspective, Jalen McMillan goes a lot more expensively than Coker. He's a wide receiver 4 who I think, despite scoring a bunch of touchdowns, was actually less impressive per route than Coker was last year. I really like him. The cheap points buy that I like is Darnell Mooney, the Moon Dog, who's at wide receiver 60, 150 overall. Michael Penix was zipping the ball downfield last year when he came in a way that Kirk Cousins was pretty much incapable of. So Darnell Mooney, according to the Fantasy Points data suite, 2.04 yards per out run last year, 0.21 targets per out run. That's like a top 24 wide receiver 18 through wide receiver 24 style profile for a wide receiver 2, particularly a downfield wide receiver 2. And I'm pretty darn optimistic about Michael Penix going into this year. I had really impressive redacted grades in his last 3 weeks. Also, really strong EPA per drop back on deep throws. That's where Mooney's going to be thriving. I think they're kind of done with the Kyle Pitts experiment. So I think this whole offense is going to run through London and through Mooney and, of course, Bijan. And I think he has an opportunity to be like fairly comparable bet to some of those other cheap wide receiver 2s, but is also pretty young still.
Yeah, with Mooney, you're talking about a guy that hit multiple games of 15 or more fantasy points. Also, you just mentioned PFF, and it just like rings a bell in Scott's ear.
Yeah, Scott somehow like a Beetlejuice scenario.
Answered the bat call there, yeah.
Yeah. You gotta be careful with that because, as he mentions, they don't know what a route is. I like the call. I was in on Mooney last year for the same reason. He's just as cheap, even though he was pretty dang good last year for that team. So I like that. I like that a lot. Ryan, your picks.
Yeah, so I almost felt bad writing this one down because I thought Tom would want to take it. But Daniel Jones, guys, we talk about startable quarterbacks in Dynasty Superflex leagues.
Yeah, if I logged in earlier, I mean, that's the one.
Yeah. Daniel Jones is going to start games this year, guys. And
start 17, baby.
Yeah, that is also totally possible. And when he's done that in recent history, he's been a relatively productive fantasy quarterback. In 2022 and 2023, in his healthy games, 17.6 fantasy points per game. That would have been the QB 13 last year. His scramble rates pre-ACL injury were up at like 9.5%. That is Jaden Daniels and Drake May territory from last year. Guy would take off all the time. Is it necessarily good for his offense? No. Is it good for us to score fantasy points? Yes, absolutely. He was even getting used on designed runs last year. He was fourth in the NFL in designed runs per game at the quarterback position, with Anthony Richardson being second. So he can kind of plug and play right into this Shane Steichen offense. And I will just say, as a final note, Anthony Richardson injury stuff aside, really kind of seems like the entire team, including Michael Pittman and Josh Downs, are just rooting for Jones to win the job anyway. So I would say he's very likely the week 1 starter. Also want to quickly shout out.
He is certainly the week 1 starter. If you're visiting my guy, Neil Elatrash, it's Jover for you. You're not like, I know they said the plan is no surgery, but like if you are going to a surgeon to seek a second opinion, you're not in a good spot. Like it's yeah. All you're hoping for, if you're holding Richardson bags at this point, is and I'll update, by the way, from our roster fix up podcast 2 weeks ago, the Anthony Richardson for Braylon Allen for Geno Smith deal that did go through, so that's one fewer Anthony Richardson.
There we go.
On my docket.
We like that.
Carroll Richardson, your hope, I think, is that he doesn't get surgery, that he's cleared around the beginning of the season ish. That Jones plays terrible, and then Richardson gets some starts down the stretch, and you are able to flip to a truther. But yeah, I think the overall dream is just over.
Yeah, last year I moved Richardson for Goff straight up, and let's just say I'm living quite happily with that. Even if I get like 15 to 17 points per game, Jared Goff with Ben Johnson gone, I'm still going to be super stoked with that.
Yeah, and just a last quick shout out I wanted to do. 1 week ago from today, or maybe a little over a week ago, before the Anthony Richardson shoulder news broke, I did blast out to Fantasy Points Discord subscribers a Daniel Jones bet that is now looking very, very nice. It was plus 190 for Jones to be the Colts week 1 starter. No idea what that is down to now. I'm pretty sure it's off the board, but yeah, that bet's looking pretty good if you made that 1 week ago. Another reason to go get in the Fantasy Points Discord, link in the description and all that. But just 2 other really quick guys, or 3. Yeah, 2 really quick guys. We'll keep it to 2. Late round guys, Rashid Shaheed, going in the 14th round of Dynasty startups right now. In his career games with Chris Olave, with both of them playing over a 50% snap share, 22 such games.
This is utter woke nonsense.
Chris Olave in that sample, 2.06 yards per out run. Rashid Shaheed, exactly 2 yards per out run. They are essentially the same player, just from a per route efficiency perspective when they're on the field together.
What about the target
costs are multiple rounds apart. I don't know the targets per route run off the top of my head, Jacob. I had this stat written down for an article. I'm repurposing it for the show. I'm not a literal human calculator. I'm not a human data suite. I can't just run the filter in my head.
Interesting why you'd only know the yards and not the targets between these players. I just thought as an unbiased, you'd want to paint the whole picture.
Okay, well, I'll make sure to get Chris Olave in my points per target league, and in the leagues where we
I play a lot of those actually
for receiving yards. I will continue drafting Rashid Shaheed in the 14th round. He's just like the perfect flex in like your start 10, start 11s. You'll just chuck him in there. He will have those 14, 15 point weeks for you. He's not going to be like the roster clogger type of wide receiver that I'll talk about in a little bit. Yeah, love Shaheed. Draft him. Only other guy, similar vein, Cedric Tillman. Honestly, a little bit of more of a value bet than a points bet compared to Shaheed. But everyone seems to forget that there were, I think it was a 3 or 4 game sample once Amari Cooper got traded and Cedric Tillman began running a full-time route share for the Browns this past season. Tillman, not only did he lead all Browns pass catchers in fantasy points per game over that span, so 18.6 fantasy points per game there, ahead of Jerry Jeudy, ahead of David Njoku, but also nearly a 26% first read target share, also leading the team. We just all saw Cedric Tillman in year 2 have the start of like a year 2 breakout. And yes, obviously he got concussed and missed basically the rest of the season, but everyone's kind of forgotten about that. On the off chance that was just like the year 2 rocket ship breakout that got interrupted by a concussion, and he's right back where he's at, even with the godforsaken QB play the Browns are going to have this year. That's really interesting to me. If Tillman goes out there and he's the Browns target leader in week 1, week 2, week 3, you are getting a value gain and he's scoring points for you. So yeah, Tillman is my other kind of favorite later wide receiver right now.
Scott wanted to point out Jacob somehow just as triggered by that stat as the first time he heard it on the Halloween Dynasty Points episode with Scott Barrett.
Rashid Shaheed. Yeah, I will never not be triggered by Rashid Shaheed. He's like, I'm triggered for him for like 2 reasons. The first is that like before I knew he was actually like in existence, I saw him like run a couple routes and look cool, so I picked him up on like a million Dynasty rosters, and then people were like wanted to give me thirds and seconds and 2-3 swaps for like a player that I thought was just completely useless, like off of his first couple seasons. And I thought I was laughing my way to the bank. And then he became like an actually real player at the start of last year. And I will say like extremely small sample size last year because he got hurt. I can't remember how many weeks in, 4 or 5. Does that sound right?
It was like week 7 or something. I cried a lot.
So he eventually, so not a large sample size, but I will say like previous to last year in 2023 and 2022, he like didn't really earn targets at all, but he was really efficient on his targets on a per route basis. Last year, he actually ran more routes and he actually earned targets on those routes. Do I really believe that that's actually sustainable? Not really, but you're getting all of that priced in for sure. If you're getting all the ceiling is priced above his cost.
Yeah, it's I love that Scott went and got the evidence from the
when I wrote this version of that stat in an article that Scott looked over earlier this week, like his eyes like lit up. I could feel Scott's eyes light up through the DM messages when he was asking me further questions about the stat.
So good. I love it.
How would you rank? So if you're a Tillman bull or if you're a Njoku or Jeudy bull or whatever, how would you rank your order of operations for quarterbacks you most to least want to see take the most snaps for the Cleveland Browns this year?
It's only Joe Flacco.
Yeah, I think you want Flacco and hope he's like not as washed as he looked last year. I feel like that's the most likely path to.
I mean, he was terrible last year for real life, but he was like very fine for feeding fantasy receivers last year. Like all of his issues last year for the Colts were like he would take egregious sacks and he would throw egregious interceptions, but like he had no problem like feeding Downs and Pierce and Pittman at the end of the season. Like they were thriving.
Remember, he was responsible
by far number one.
Yeah, he was responsible single-handedly for pushing Downs as like wide receiver 1 for rest of season across multiple fantasy platforms. Like it was the hope for Flacco. So maybe we do get the Amari Cooper bump one more time.
The thing with Flacco is like he is so scared of getting hit that like he'll release the ball pretty quick. So that's a lot of incompletions. And that, but I mean, this is like all positives. It's like his negatives become positives for pass catchers. Like one negative about him is that he's good for a couple of like ridiculous interceptions where he's just forcing the ball. That's fine. That's kind of like Jameis-y. 2, he he's like so terrified of getting hit that he'll just throw a lot of incompletions. That keeps the clock stopped. That means more plays per game total. 3, he's so immobile that like even coaches that would prefer to run the ball can't really call run plays with him effectively because his complete lack of mobility just like makes your run game worse. Like you can't do any sort of RPOs or anything like that. You just kind of have to do this drop back pass heavy game plan with him. So it really, really feeds families. I think I'm going Shedeur next, then Gabriel, and then Pickett. That's like how little I think of Kenny Pickett. I would rather take the shot on Shedeur and Gabriel.
Pickett's definitely last for me too. Yeah. I will just always remember about Kenny Pickett is I didn't believe in him at all after his rookie year, but I had this one stat where it was like, wow, Kenny Pickett had like the third worst touchdown rate as a rookie of like any rookie in the past 20 years. And almost none of these guys got to start again in year 2. But like the few who did were actually better. So like this is good for Deontay Johnson, guys. And yeah, spoiler, wasn't good for Deontay Johnson.
No,
to have Kenny Pickett for another year.
Well,
won't be good for any Browns pass catchers.
The one nice thing with Gabriel and Sanders compared to most rookies, especially like round 3 and round 5 rookies, they both have experience in extremely high volume college offenses. So like these are quarterbacks who've had a lot of games where they've dropped back to pass 40 times. I don't think it's going to go very well as rookies in the NFL, but it's not like you hear a lot about JJ McCarthy. It's like, what if the Vikings try to run the ball off because he's not used to being like a straight drop back passer? Like Gabriel and Sanders are very used to everything rests on my shoulders. I'm going to just fire the ball downfield repeatedly. So I wouldn't be surprised if they let them rip a little bit.
I might be drinking a little bit of the Cleveland Browns offseason hype juice right now. I think that they're finally getting the offense.
Offseason hype juice?
There is.
Where do I find that hype juice? Yeah. Oh my God. It's like black market.
I'll tell you a little
shit.
bit. I'll get you a little bit excited. I think that this is the first time that, like, since the Deshaun Watson trade, that they have actually accepted that was a miserable idea. They're letting Stefanski reset there. They're actually going to be running his scheme and not trying to, piece this thing together to let Watson cook, even though, oh my gosh, it was the worst restaurant in town. And now we're moving forward. They have a good, solid run game. They actually have a pretty decent offensive line, and their defense is really good. I think that they're going to be more efficient than they will be for like high volume type, like ridiculous week winning outputs. But I think we're going to see efficiency. I think that whatever quarterback's there, all of them know how to spread the ball around. I'm kind of excited about it. And because Stefanski's so like reliant on the play action game, I actually think that the rookies can come in and have an immediate impact. Kenny Pickett winning the job is a worst case scenario, not only just because like for the rest of the weapons, but that means that there's so little trust in the rest of that quarterback room that they decided to go with Kenny Pickett. Like that's just absolute worst case scenario. I wouldn't mind either rookie starting. I think that the highest ceiling that this team has is Shedeur comes out and is actually good. That's the best case scenario for Cleveland Browns. Next best case scenario, at least for us, is Joe Flacco is just given the reins and they say go forth and throw 33 pass attempts per game, and we'll find some way of splitting up, almost 30 carries between Judkins and Sampson. But I don't know. I think that this could actually be a pretty solid year for the Cleveland Browns and the fantasy aspects. I am a little bit nervous about their tight ends, especially if the rookies are playing. I think everyone else are in a good spot.
Yeah, no disagreements from me here. I've been pro by Jeudy for the first time maybe like ever in my fantasy career anyway. So no, I like those. I like that. Look, Tyler, before I get into mine, don't think that your question was lost on me on who would be the ideal starting lineup on Milf Island. If we're going starting 5 NBA style, we got Sofia Vergara, Marissa Tomei, Selma Hayek, Leslie Mann, and Monica Bellucci. I'm just saying. No, I have no idea. I was just giving you.
I don't think that's a real show.
Is it really a real show?
Oh, see that I don't know.
No, it's not. It's a bit from 30 Rock. Which I've never seen.
Okay.
I was just trying to answer this. If I were giving like my ideal starting 5,
but
that would be the
something on
starting
Hulu
5
called Back in the Groove, and that is basically Milf Island.
All right, that sounds like something Tyler would watch. But I just wanted to shout out Tyler. Don't think that comment was lost on me. I got you. That was my starting 5. Back to the task at hand here. My favorite pick, obviously we like running backs late. Like to me, these are the types of plays that
Sean. Jennifer Connelly is a fucking
They're the ones that can really pay off for you for stretches of a season. It's usually a position that we're scraping and fighting to find fillers for, especially if you're a Dynasty Points market report listener. So for me, it's Roschon Johnson. He is somebody that is high on my list at the end of drafts. He is insanely cheap. He's not someone you really have to stress about. Round 18, he's going right by the newly deceased Woody Marks, right before Hunter Henry. Like he goes right before like Joe Milton and Troy Franklin. Just not players that I'm concerned about missing on. Whereas in a Ben Johnson offense, there can be a role for Roschon if he shows anything like he did at Texas. Decent prospect that he was, not a ton of opportunity, but I will, like by this time I've already got like 5 tight ends. I don't need that many more. So you can always benefit from having backup running backs. Now this is the trick though. It's trying to predict who's the actual backup, right? It's Travis Homer, it's Roschon. I've seen both. For me, I'm okay clicking on Roschon because he's not Travis
the actual
Homer.
backup is DeAndre Swift.
Yeah. Well, who's starting? Oh, aside from Kyle Monangai.
Roschon, yeah.
Oh, you think? Okay.
I think not maybe not week 1, but I legitimately think, and I'm like not a Roschon Johnson fan. I think Roschon Johnson is like the platonic ideal of a replacement level running back. But I think replacement level running back is actually better than DeAndre Swift. And I think that Ben Johnson has used Jamal Williams as a rusher over DeAndre Swift and Justin Jackson as a pass blocker over DeAndre Swift. And if you just smush together Jamal Williams with Justin Jackson's pass blocking ability, that's just Roschon Johnson.
Yeah, no, I don't totally disagree with you.
Bracket complimentary and bracket derogatory.
He's RB 64. Right? There's worse picks that I think you can make. Now, I know TD loves Hunter Henry, but in an offense that's projected to be better, I can absolutely see a world where you're getting a 6 to 8 touchdown season, right? 150 touches, 125 touches from Roschon. And if DeAndre Swift continues to be softer than baby shit, especially when he gets hurt, real opportunity there. And we've seen Ben Johnson give up on DeAndre Swift before. Now
people don't like the RYOE stuff anymore. I know it's out of vogue, but like DeAndre Swift dead last with a not so nice minus 0.69 RYOE per attempt, and also dead last, only person under 30, 28.8% of his rushes went for the amount of yards expected or more last year, which is like a preposterously low number. I think that's probably one of the lowest numbers for a qualifying running back that they have on record. Not good.
Agreed. I mean, I called him a Dynasty 0 last year, and then he had like a game of 13 points, and people were like, not a 0. Guess what? Do you know what his value still is? Big fat donut. So
the only guys, I'm just going to keep going the stat now because I've actually looked them up. The only ones that have lower ROE percentages per carry since 2020 is Seahawks Alex Collins.
Hey, what a pull. 5 for 5
and Carolina Miles Sanders. In not last year, but the year before, when he lost his job to Chuba Hubbard by like week 6.
Also, could we just shout out
like a $30 million contract?
Can we just shout out RIP Alex Collins, Ravens legend who did pass away.
God,
my goat. The dreads always, the drip was always on fire with Alex Collins in Baltimore. Shout out to you. Yeah, I'm
one
about
more. Josh Kelly on the Los Angeles Chargers. That was the other one.
Fat. What is it? Fat Josh Kelly? Was that the?
No, Fat Rob Kelly. But Josh
that's
Kelly
Fat Rob Kelly. Yeah.
We've had Justin Jackson and Josh Kelly mentions on this podcast right now. I feel like it's Austin Eckler holdout year again. Whatever that was.
Yeah, that was like. Remember how long the
about
Chargers
that
just
backfield.
insisted on making us care about Josh Kelly and Justin Jackson?
No, never. You could never have made me care.
I love you, Justin Jackson, the NFL's wokest running back.
Yeah, you can never make me care about them. But that's why, because I like these running backs. I like them late. They're our favorite clicks, especially again if you are a listener of the Dynasty Points Market Report podcast that comes out on Fridays. And I have another one kind of in the same realm, same reasoning. It's Kendre Miller. You're getting a 5-round difference from the rookie drafted in New Orleans to where you can get Kendre Miller. And I just not as convinced as maybe some others are. So I think Kendre Miller was a decent prospect. I thought when he got to play last year, he looked okay. Unfortunately, his biggest problem is that he too is a little bit soft, maybe too soft for the position. But again, a very nice RB69 price, hard to beat, hard to argue. And again, we'll keep saying we're going to ride Alvin Kamara until the wheels fall off. One day, you would think that those wheels will fall off and somebody else will get the opportunity. A lot of opportunity for checkdowns in an offense that's not exactly projected to be smooth, if you would. But again, a backup running back with an opportunity somewhere down the line behind a veteran. You're scraping together 10 to 11 points from a backup running back in like week 12. If you're like me, you are super stoked about that. I like the opportunity. The coach that just banished him forever, whether he was actually hurt or not, or the coach that injured the player to keep him off the field by the way it sounded, he's not there anymore. Maybe he gets an opportunity. He's free, and as free as can be. Let's roll with Kendre Miller and Roschon Johnson.
My counter argument on Kendre Miller is that I couldn't, off the top of my head, remember the name of the running back he was splitting carries with after Alvin Kamara went down in like week 15 and 16 last year. It was Jordan Mims. I looked it up, but yeah,
I really
that's
wanted to try and think of that for myself, but
sorry. I can't.
And it's fair.
I can't do Kendre Miller anymore.
We talked about Kendre Miller today on ADP chasing. I'm like, this is one where the market has definitely decided Devin Neal is the more likely backup. I'm not sure about that. He round 6 pick. Some people really like Devin Neal pre-draft. I was not really one of them. I do think he is a solid enough backup. Kendre to me is like he was the Marshawn Lloyd of 2023, where like I thought he kind of stunk, but a lot of people were really excited about him. I don't know if he's good because he's never really played. I do think he has more juice than Neal, like just pure ceiling athletic ability. I think Miller has the edge over Neal in that respect. I don't know that he's as like complete of a running back as Neal, but I would not be surprised if he won that number 2 job. And agreed, like the Saints might be like absolutely awful this year. I mean, if they're starting Rattler or Tyler Shuck this year, I think there's a pretty good chance they're going to be the worst team in the NFL. And if that's the case, are they going to be trotting out Alvin Kamara for 75% of snaps on like a 3-13 team in the playoff weeks? Like that seems plausible. The answer is no. So maybe there's something there for Kendre or Neal.
Like I said, it's a 5-round difference for me on a bunch of backups. The game is always trying to predict who the actual backup is, and we're so rarely right. But this one just feels like a pretty easy click for both of them, right? You could end up with both of them if you really just want a piece of the offense. That's not really my style specifically, but these are the players that I like late. I like functional backups and backup running backs. They help push us again. 10, 11, 12 points or more. Week 12, I'm usually super stoked by that. So those are our late round sleeper picks that we like, and a little bit as to why, if you sit tight when we come back, stick with us. We're going to do some late round picks that we're kind of fading. Don't go anywhere. Be right back. Okay, these are some players that we ignore. Now, there might be some analytical reason. There might be some drip reason. Whatever the reason, we are going to break it down. I'm going to start this time with Ryan. Who are you fading, just completely ignoring and taking off your board here at the late rounds?
Yeah, so just to be clear, everything I'm about to say only really applies to Dynasty. All of these players are going to find homes on my best ball teams at one point or another, probably. But specifically in managed dynasty leagues, I just don't want to draft like any late round wide receiver that is never going to average more than like 10 fantasy points per game. These are like your Romeo Doubses, your Wan'Dale Robinsons, your Demario Douglases, arguably like your Alec Pierces, just kind of all of those guys. And the reason for that is you kind of lose either way when you draft them, because if your team ends up being bad enough that you actually need to put one of them in your flex, your team's probably not going anywhere in terms of winning a championship that year. And these are not players that have like tradable value. You cannot offload these types of players from your roster more than likely. And you also lose if your team is good and you don't need to plug these players in because you have actual like above replacement level production in your flex. Then it's like, oh, these are just roster cloggers and there's no point to them being on my roster. They could have been better used for like random young player or like handcuff X that could have given me a couple startable weeks maybe at some point. So yeah, just that archetype of player is I just try to avoid as much as possible in the late rounds of dynasty startups.
Yeah, at best, you're generally like packaging some of those guys up to like get like a second if you can. Not for me. I used to love guys like Pop Douglas and Wan'Dale and all these. I'm right there with you. It's like if one of your starting quarterbacks in Superflex get hurt, you're pretty much toast anyway. You're sticking these guys in your lineups. It's time to reconsider the actual validity of a contending roster. Just not great. Jacob, what do you got?
I really don't have anything to say that's different than what Ryan already said. I guess I can repackage it in a slightly different way.
I just realized what you said. Everything Ryan said on the show sheet. Got it.
It's basically just whatever your particular roster is, whatever your particular scoring settings are. If you look at your roster and you say, this player is not actually going to make an impact on my roster above replacement level, and you can't tell yourself a story of how their value is going to pop, then I would just rather them be, frankly, a 4th round pick or any backup running back. So if I was to try to make a rule of thumb that doesn't apply, obviously, in every single circumstance, I would say if you're year 3 or later and you've never shown any sort of peripheral data that suggests that you might be at least like a 12 points per game player, then I probably don't care about you in the slightest in Dynasty Fantasy Football.
Well said. That's really well said. Lucas?
Yeah, so I looked at and I tried to be a little bit more creative. I think Ryan has the right answer here, but I'm looking at it whenever you're late in drafts and you're on the clock and you're looking at players who may have 1 or 2 more seasons, or you might be looking at getting 8 productive games out of them. Where he talks about Adam Thielen earlier here, but there's more on this list. We might see Nick Chubb might have 3 games where he's going to be good, but we're going to have players that are further down on the draft board who are getting ready to phase out of the league. And we have a bunch of younger players or year 2, year 3 players who are considered the upside plays. And you start drafting them because you think maybe one day they'll be something. And we know that they're going to be in the league for a while longer. So you're drafting those players. Don't be afraid to draft somebody who's going to die on your team. That it's perfectly fine to be able to do that. If you're worried about throwing away value in the 20th round of your startup draft, that you're thinking way too hard on this. Draft the players who are going to be scoring points at that point in time, or players or rookies, really. If you're having to pull a 3rd-year player and hoping that something's going to happen, that's really not going to work out for you. I know that there are Elijah Moore fans who still exist out there. He's not somebody you should be drafting that late. I'm sorry, Ryan, but Christian Watson, that's not somebody I'm going to be drafting that late here.
No, I agree.
To my own self, Jalen Polk, I'm not going to be drafting Jalen Polk. I loved him so much.
Yeah.
But, somebody who might sign somewhere and be productive for you is Keenan Allen going in that same round. I'm much more willing to put Keenan Allen on the bench, hope that he signs somewhere, get some points, and move on with life.
I agree with what Lucas said too. And I would say, I know we're talking about late rounds, but I'll just talk anyways. I would say this is like even more prevalent in the mid rounds. So like I was looking at the range, some of the guys we've already talked about today. So like Ryan mentioned Shaheed earlier. I mentioned Darnell Mooney. Those go at wide receiver 60 and 61 respectively. If you look in and around and above this range, so it's like Keon Coleman is at wide receiver 47. Then it goes Bash, Pittman, Myers, Debo, Ridley, Jennings, Kupp, McMillan, Diggs, Jalen Noel, Xavier Leggett, Marvin Mims, Darnell Mooney, Rashid Shaheed, Kyle Williams. So like of this stretch, it's like so clear to me what the two archetypes are that are worth investing in whatsoever. It's the guys that are actually going to produce points, the Jennings, the Ridley, the Mooney, that, you know, I think some of these guys are washed, but if you like Kupp or Debo, whatever. And then it's the total mystery boxes, the Jack Bash, the Kyle Williams, the like Marvin Mims, Xavier Leggett, Keon Coleman, Jalen McMillan grouping, like could not be of less interest to me in comparison. It's like I would either rather re-roll those for actual rookies who have actual mystery box potential, or the Mooney, Ridley, the group of players that I think you can reasonably project as starters. Every single time I'm in a startup, and I'm in like 3 right now, and I see that group of the Leggett, Mims, Bateman, like that kind of group, I'm like, whew, there's a pick like that's just off the board, and I can get an actually useful player to fall to me.
Yeah, again, perfectly nailed, perfectly talked about. Jacob, I don't want to be here for 2 hours. Also, Jacob, no. I'm just going to talk anyway. Classic.
No, I'm sorry that I want to try to give good advice to the people. You know,
you shouldn't. I'm just stating that when you're like, oh, my back.
Put me in jail.
Oh, my back. I can't do recreational sports activities anymore because I'm past my mid-20s now.
Yeah, it is so embarrassing to be like physically incapacitated with a back injury at 28. Like it's brutal, man. Like this entire day I've been just like popping extra strength off-brand Robax Platinum. I've been wearing like I've been applying a heating pad. Trying to ice and the heat. It's rough out here, man.
When we first met many years ago was the start of the decline of my body at slow pitch. And I was mocked a lot by, at the time, the youngins. And now you get to feel that pain live. And I have to admit, I'm here for it. For me, I think everyone else went. Everyone else is gone. I'll go. For me, it's Pat Friermuth. I'm so sick of this dude. Like I'm so sick of Pat Friermuth. Jacob, you and I drafted him in the Scott Barrett Invitational last year, and we kept going back and forth. I'd always want to play Conklin. You're like, nah, he'll just get us our 4 for 35.
Moose is going to be big for us this year, man. Get those Rodgers touchdowns. Come on.
If he gets to play the Bengals every week, Pat Friermuth is going to be tight end 1. This dude had games, one against Indy that was pretty good, 19 points, 21.8, and then 26.5 against Cincinnati, and everything else is like maybe he scratches to 15, 12. I'm just sick of this dude. He's 26. Okay, he goes a lot earlier than I think he rightfully has any business going. I had him up, and now I've lost him. In the 12th round, tight end 19. I'm sorry. No, thank you. Right? Like I'm good. You just want to talk about guys like Darnell Mooney, and we've talked about Shaheed. We've talked about Jordan Mason on this show, and Dylan Sampson, and Jalen Coker, and all of these possible better play. There are other tight ends, man, that you could just be taking. Arroyo, right? Goddard, Ferguson, Fannin, Jatavian Sanders, Brenton Strange, Chig, Ben Sinnott. There's just other tight ends. You want to go even later for later round dart throws. Oronde Gadsden, Gunnar Helm. You just don't need. You want a tight end that can give you between 6 points and 21. Draft Juwan Johnson in the 22nd round.
That guy fucking came through for us. I think we played him in the super flex.
Yeah,
because we were so out of quarterbacks, and he got us the winning point in that blowout against Green Bay. My favorite part of Tom's answer is that everybody else like gave like a group of players, like an archetype of players. And Tom was like, I had Pat Friermuth on my team and it fucking sucked. I hate Pat Friermuth in particular.
It sucks every time. Every single time you click on Pat Friermuth, you're just walking into a wall head first every single time, right? It's like knowing that you have a wide open door to walk through and you choose to close it and just run into it full head of steam head first anyway, just to punish yourself. He's awful. He has some decent games, sure. He's in a god-awful offense for target earners for Arthur Smith. And there's just other options. I was going through the same thing a couple of years ago when it was hashtag just draft Njoku cheaper, because Njoku was cheaper for a period of time over Pat Friermuth. Dynasty tight end like 8 at one point. I can't do it. There's nothing special to it. There's nothing Rodgers can do to like boost this for me. The 12th round for a guy like Pat Friermuth, it feels like putting on 2 condoms at the tight end spot, right? And I am assuming by the 12th round, like you're drafting Pat Friermuth or any tight end with this archetype. Since Jakob called me out for just singling out like a single player, a boring, 4 for 35, and maybe he scores a touchdown tight end. There are just a dozen. Just wait for Zach Ertz. Just wait for Zach Ertz at that point. Like I just don't understand drafting these tight ends that we know have little to no upside. I can't draft them. I won't draft them. You should stop drafting them. Draft the younger guys if you want veteran value production. Just take Zach Ertz later, or Hunter Henry at tight end 31. I'd rather Hunter Henry than Pat Friermuth, and they give you the same thing. Just Hunter Henry's a little bit better. I'm just tired of these ass tight ends being drafted, let alone tight end 19 in the 12th round. There's just other picks that you can make to better your roster. Sorry, I can't do it anymore. Can't do it.
I don't know if this is even true, and I can't like really explain this, but there are certain players that just have like big Devy energy to me, and Pat Friermuth has always been one of those. I don't know if he was like a big Devy guy or whatever, but I don't know. I just feel like it's these players that were
strong set of peripherals in year 2, and then he just never took the next step.
He's the OG baby Gronk.
Look. He had 98 targets. That was dope. 63 receptions, 732. He only scored 2 touchdowns in the sophomore year, right? So if he like 5 or 6,
I don't even look at that column.
His value would have like absolutely boomed. He was like tight end 8. If I remember correctly, he was like 2 touchdowns away from being like top 6, if I'm not mistaken, which would have driven his value even higher. I can't do it anymore. I
think you're probably right. I think to answer Ryan's question, like that's just what I don't understand is like normally with tight ends, like he had the pedigree, had the strong peripherals year 2. I don't know that much about his blocking, but I don't think it's like terrible. Like I think he's at least serviceable as a Y. And so it just doesn't really make sense to me why he never became like a legitimate like mid-range tight end 1. But yeah, I guess
the issue is he stayed in Pittsburgh his entire time, and he had the very end of Roethlisberger, I think. Yeah, he had the very end of Roethlisberger, and then went into this quarterback purgatory.
Oh, I know why. I know why he's sad. He likes Domino's.
Yeah. So Howland Maxwell says, I met Pat Friermuth in a Domino's on the day of my 8th grade graduation. Mutual friends through someone at Brooks, his high school. He says that's all I got for Pat. Darnell Washington is better. Shout out Darnell Washington.
I think that's enough Friermuth.
I'm just the overall takeaway. Don't waste your time on these mid-tier ass tight ends. You can always acquire them. You either swing for the fences with the young, the youth, and just wait for veteran production later. That's it. That's it. Just stop wasting your picks on these guys. We're going to do Dynasty Q&A when we come back from this next break. Don't go anywhere. Okay. AMA, we have a bunch of questions that have been asked, and we are going to get through them. Jacob, this is your time to shine.
Time? All right, let's do it. I'm going to go to the starred ones here. Would it be worth it to give up 2 firsts in 2026 plus Engram for Loveland and a 26 first? I mean, I would definitely need some details on the first, because the fact that you're giving up 2 26 firsts and then you're getting a 26 first back implies that there is a large discrepancy in value between at least 2 of those 26 firsts. Otherwise, not sure why we're doing that. But assuming it's basically just 126-1 and Engram for Loveland, I think I would pass on that one. This is like an old, back from my Bulletproof Discord days, but an old Jakob market rule is if you're trading a player who projects better in the current year, or anytime you can trade a player for a player who projects better than them at the same position in the current year and add a first, like 95% of the time you should be doing so. And I would say that rule of thumb applies here. Anyone feel differently?
No, it's a weird structure. I don't like doing trade structures like this. So I'm probably keeping my ones here. I just don't like these structures.
Yeah, and we really don't know how much more we're going to get out of Evan Engram. Colston Loveland is an elite prospect coming out. I don't feel good about essentially giving up 2 firsts, or you're giving up 2 firsts and a productive player for 2 firsts. It just doesn't make a lot of sense from a structure standpoint.
Yeah. Agreed.
Am I crazy for being into Keaton Mitchell? Jacob Deal asked. I mean, I don't think it's going to work, but I don't think he costs anything, so sure.
Yeah, Graham Barfield and I were talking about this on Best Ball Breakdown last week. There's just a really good chance that Keaton Mitchell is kind of like the primary backup. If Henry goes down, like, Justice Hill is not going to absorb like all of the rushing workload that the Ravens want to have in their backfield. So, yeah, why not? Give me Keaton Mitchell as like a flyer.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I thought last year, and it applies this year too, because they don't really have that true Derrick Henry backup. That's part of why I'm actually really into Zay Flowers at cost. Is I just think that there's a chance for, if Henry were to go down, I just think they would like churn up the pass rate so much, because Justice Hill just can't operate as like a real running back. But maybe the answer to that is Keaton Mitchell. Scott, it started that Scott saying I'm triggered about Rashid Shaheed. That's true. I am eternally triggered by Rashid Shaheed. Satoshi, once again, congrats on the Bitcoin. How long do you see McBride dominating? Bowers is the hot tight end right now, but is there value to be had tearing up to McBride instead? Is Kelsey overproduction in the next 4 or 5 years realistic? I mean, Kelsey production is a lot to ask. Like peak Kelsey is, I think, the most productive tight end arguably ever. I do think that, like, it's not, I don't think it's asking, would you tear down from Bowers? It's just referencing Bowers. I agree. If you're in a league and you want to tear up a tight end and you can't get Bowers, I definitely think it's worth doing for McBride. It's a little tough because those two are so far ahead of the pack. But yeah, to me in Dynasty, I either want Bowers, I want McBride, I want Kittle on contenders, or I just want sort of the cheapest available player that has a possibility of finishing tight end 7.
Yeah, I would basically line up with that. Definitely think McBride is like a worthy asset to pay up for, specifically in like tight end premium dynasty leagues. Just like on the is Kelsey realistic point, that kind of stumbles into my entire argument for why I'm not super into like the early tight ends right now in redraft and in best ball, that I know Jacob super disagrees with. But yeah, I mean, essentially we've only really seen Travis Kelce post like positive league winning seasons within the first 2 rounds of ADP since Rob Gronkowski. Basically, it's Kelce and Gronk that have done it. You have to average like 17 PPR points per game to do it from the first 2 rounds. Do I think Bowers could do that because he's so amazing and he can just be like the most efficient tight end since Kelce? Sure, maybe. It's not like my favorite bet. McBride, he gets a lot of volume. I don't think he's like really the type of like efficiency monster that can take the next take like that next step. So I'm not really into taking McBride in redraft, but really long sidebar.
To be clear, this is a tangent now, but like when people do the like I disagree about taking the elite tight ends. Can we just be honest and like not call it the elite tight ends? This is a discussion about Brock Bowers and Trey McBride. There's two players this conversation is relevant to. So I just feel like the framing of like this structural point is like a little overdone. Like I thought last year when there was like these 7 tight ends, they were all grouped in the 3-4. I thought it was more structural. Like I actually don't even take that much McBride because Kittle goes on the following turn. But like to me, this is really just a discussion about Brock Bowers. And not like a referendum on the tight end position. And I just think Brock Bowers is going to outscore the wide receivers that go next to him.
Fair.
Ryan obviously does it because he doesn't.
Yeah, I don't, but yeah,
but we have a bet on Brock Bowers versus Ladd McConkey half PPR points this year, right? I think we're locked in.
We do,
that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we
sure
got to write that on a show sheet somewhere.
Yeah. Put it at the bottom. Put it on the bet show sheet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
All
right. Next up.
Yes. Next up, we've got the Browns threw 660 times this year. They'll likely have to check it off in this year if they unlikely get some kind of quarterback play. That's not really a question. That's just a comment. But yeah, if the Browns were to do that, that'd be great. I don't think they want to do that, but yeah, they might not have a choice.
Just want to recognize.
Does anyone else have? So Tyler, this is I think. Oh God, I didn't think you'd answer this about MILF Island. Does anyone else want to talk about their favorite MILFs?
I just gave out a quick starting 5. That's a good one for the comments. You can leave that one in the comments. I'm sure.
I'm backing Sean on Jennifer Connolly. That's 100% my number one.
Okay. That 6 off the bench. 6 off the bench. We can take it. All right.
Yeah.
Next up.
What do I try and trade Swift for in my league if I'm weak at running back? So you're trying to do a running back for running back trade, which is always a little bit tricky. Just looking at Dynasty ADP, he currently goes right next to James Conner. And like I would just absolutely rather have James Conner. I think like any running back that's kind of old, we're not and kind of bad. We shouldn't be thinking that much about DeAndre Swift's 2026, 2027. So this just comes to any running back that I think is going to score more points than DeAndre Swift this year. And I think Conner falls into that category. So I would definitely rather have him.
Agreed. Right there with you.
Any other names?
If you're like, the problem with trading a running back away when you're weak at running back is like you need equal or better projected volume to make it worth it. I don't like doing position for position trades. I've talked about that before, like 1-for-1 swaps. I'm just not about it to begin with. I'd be looking at a different avenue because if you're as weak as I'm assuming someone like myself, like a true 8 to 11 point degenerate is at your RB2 slot, you're probably going to need Swift more than you're going to need to try to galaxy brain another running back for a running back that you're probably going to have to add on to get anyway.
Yeah, I think
I'd rather have Connor. I'd rather have Pollard. I'd rather have Pacheco. But like, are these realistic actual moves? I'm not sure. But that's my thoughts.
Is it even realistic to try to trade Swift for 2 seconds and then move those seconds to go and get another
2 seconds?
Yeah, you're not. You're lucky if you get a sniff at it too. In any league that I'm in personally.
You can definitely get 1-2. I think 2 seconds is pretty optimistic.
See, that's a thing.
But I do like the way you're thinking though, Lucas, in terms of like, you do one and then you do the other. Because then you can find
you can definitely get Najee Harris plus for a second. Like if you're wanting to be creative about how to move off of a running back, you can. If you could have gotten 2 seconds, you could have moved one of them for Najee Harris plus, then use your other second, maybe try to go do something with Tony Pollard potentially and try to fix your problem by taking some dart throws on people who might have some volume this season. I don't know. Try to get creative there. It's always tough whenever you're weak at a position, but you can really only deal from the position that you're weak at to improve your team. So you're just going to have to bite the bullet at some point in time and potentially move off of another position if that's really what you're wanting to do to like improve your team, or just suck it up and know that your team's not as good as you think it is.
Yep, absolutely. Let's keep it moving. This one's just for me.
On the Nung guy. I have
Well,
no thoughts,
look,
but Tom, you're the Rutgers aficionado.
Look, Rutgers legend, right? Kyle Monangai, back-to-back 1,200 yard seasons. He is improving that yards per carry not every single year. Went from 5.2 to 5, right? He had 8 and then 13 touchdowns. This is a guy over 1,300 yards from scrimmage in back-to-back years. He can do everything. Unfortunately, Coach Eric Bieniemy has been heard in camp audibly picked up by a microphone saying he moves like an old man. So not great. And
old ass man.
Old ass
man specifically.
That's right.
But you can interpret that different ways. Maybe that means he's an old man, but maybe it just means he's old and he's an ass man.
Maybe he could, but the more likely is he's fat. And maybe that just not going to end up translating very well into the NFL. I stand him.
I have one for the Byshell Tootin haters. 669 career carries for Kyle Monangai. 0 career fumbles.
Oh, there we go. So let's put him up. Let's put him up the board.
The haters should be all in on Monangai. How should I sell Dobbins to the RJ Harvey owner besides the fact RJ is held? I mean, I think that your chances of selling Dobbins to a Harvey owner today are like quite low. One is that the Harvey owner is probably the least likely to be interested in Dobbins, quite frankly, because they probably really like Harvey. So they're probably have a lower perception of what Dobbins is going to do. I think you're probably better off trying to sell Dobbins to Harvey haters who think that he's going to come in and take the job. And I also think even if the person is worried about Dobbins, like people just will react defensively if you're like going into their DMs being like, yo, like the rookie you just take fucking sucks. Like I got the real starter. What are you going to do? Like, so I would say like probably would not try to sell Dobbins to the Harvey owner. I'd probably try to sell them to the other 10 owners in your league.
Correct. Yep. Agree here. We're going to try to do these pretty quick because we want to get 5 for 5 in here. And
traded Dobbs for a future second and it became the 201. Great job.
Yeah. We should be taking advice from you. And then I traded that for a future one. Yeah. Henry Mudo. We're taking advice from you next week.
Absolutely. Hey chat, which side are you taking? Flowers, Keon Coleman, and Pat Bryant, or Jeudy in a 26-1? I think that Flowers in the first are pretty equivalent. I would definitely trade Coleman and Pat Bryant for Jeudy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Jeudy
I would take
the one
Jeudy
for me.
Yeah, I'll take Jeudy in the 1.
Anyone else on the other side?
Lucas.
It's tougher than I thought it would be, just because I'm like, oh, Zay Flowers, Keon Coleman, and Pat Bryant, all players that I've liked, but it's the Prince himself, Jerry Jeudy, and a first. Yeah, I'm going with that side, but I think that's tougher than I originally thought it was going to be.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Anthony, start up or nah? I'm gonna
Nah.
Well, I will say I'm in a current startup where someone just drafted him as their 6th quarterback after Tyler Shuck. So, all bets are off, I guess, at that point, but I'm still going with nah.
Yeah. He tagged you immediately too. He really thought he got you there.
No, I mean, we've been arguing on Twitter all summer because I think he's probably relented now, but up until recently, he was like, hey, Rich is going to get one more chance. And I was like, I don't think so, buddy. Is 102 a fair offer for Gibbs? I think you're extremely unlikely to get that trade done there.
Yep.
I'm not
that's
sure you're
going to be hard
if you offer 101 for Gibbs, but that's probably a lot more fair.
Yeah, that you need to bump that up in every format, even the one that shan't be named. Paul Getz just finished a startup. One of the managers in my league is hounding me for Nico Collins. He wants to give me Drake London and NEX. I don't know who NEX is, but I mean, if you get to pivot from Collins to Drake London and anything, I just probably would.
I would need a bit of an ad because I think Collins. I mean, I guess they do go like pretty much back to back in seasonal leagues.
I need to know what NEX means.
Younger, so
could be Knicks.
Oh, Knicks. I mean, oh my God, yeah, I would definitely take Drake London Knicks.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah.
This must be like one quarterback, but yeah, I would still do that. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's not going to take me much to do that deal.
Okay.
Personally.
Yeah, one quarterback, I think it's probably pretty even because I don't care that much about Bo Nix and one quarterback, but Superflex, that's like an absolute smash.
Loveland, that's not really.
Tell me more. I mean, I'll just say what I've said all year. I think the Bears investing in Burton and Loveland, I think, is pretty good bet. Because I think that Rome and Moore are like really fun players in that they present an impediment to Loveland and Burton's floor, but I don't think they're actually good enough to make a major impediment to their ceiling. So I think that they reduce Loveland and Burton's price, but if they are superstars, which if you're betting on them, you're hoping they are, then I don't think they're going to stop them.
So that was a follow-on comment from somebody saying, are we going to talk about Ben Johnson's comments regarding Loveland and Burton being behind the 8 ball? Are Komet and Olamide late round picks?
I don't give a shit about Olamide Zaccheaus. No, thank you. I do think Komet is like actually, I think Komet at tight end 26 is totally fine. I mean, I don't think he's going to do that much this year.
Take him over.
Probably is like a totally fine starter for some team next year.
Yeah, take him over Pat Friermuth, tell you that much. Next up, we have, would you trade Cam Ward, Lloyd, and Jordan James for Walker, Charbonnet, and Diggs in a 12-team Superflex? Probably not. I would not.
Definitely not.
No.
This might be the one time I go Cam Ward. Yeah. Ryan, we both said it's been super hard for us to get Cam Ward at any price that we felt like okay with.
Yeah, because Jakob keeps fucking drafting him in every startup. Jakob is addicted to taking Cam Ward. Oh, I feel like
literally one share of Cam Ward.
I thought you took him in both. I could be wrong, but
no, I did not take him in this one. The other one, the current one we're in, I have Daniels, Lawrence, and Bryce Young. The other one, I do have Cam Ward. But that was the one where I kept taking quarterbacks and then immediately trading them to Akash. But Cam Ward, I still have on my roster.
Oh my goodness!
I don't know why y'all are so allergic to Cam Ward. Honestly, I've taken him more than I ever thought I would.
We can hash that out.
Apparently, in every single startup,
we can hash that out if you want. It's pretty easy for me. It's one of the worst number one prospects. Like in recent years, doesn't rush enough. Done. Over. You can just draft mobile quarterbacks. I'm good. That's it. That's the whole thing. He's one of the lowest. Jared. He's one of the lowest drafted number one overall rookie quarterbacks in Superflex startups that we have seen since Kenny Pickett.
But Kenny Pickett was not number one overall.
There's number one quarterback and
even first round,
first overall pick.
I think Ward is priced totally fine. I mean, I think like in the immediacy of the draft, I saw people saying like, is he the 102, the 103? And at that point I thought he was overrated. But like the startup that I did take him in, I got him after Travion Henderson had just went. So I got him effectively
if it changed.
106 rookie. I have no problem with that.
I had this all written down. Let's see if that has changed. If he has moved up for first round quarterbacks taken. QB 15. He went up a little bit from the last time I pulled that data, and Penix has finally started to come down in price. I am just saying in terms of like, I keep getting asked why I have him like in a lower tier than what seems everyone else does. His profile just doesn't do it for me. He's just a non-rushing archetype type quarterback, and I just don't want them anyway. So no thanks.
I mean, I don't think he's valued that. Like the startup that I took him, ironically, I took all three of these players because it was like a scenario where I kept taking them. Someone would message me saying they wanted the guy I just took, and then I was collecting little picks to move back like one spot at a time. But I took McCarthy first, then I took Ward, and then I took Penix afterwards. And like Baker and Dak went in the same mix, Goff went in the same, like in that range of quarterbacks, I think he's like completely fine.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna take the other guys. It's more a question like Lucas asked why he didn't understand why we were so. I'm just in terms of another tier. There's just gonna be other guys that I'm gonna want to pay for, in terms of his profile. That's it. That's all there is to it. It's nothing like crazy. I just didn't think he was a great prospect to begin with. And yes, he gets the boost of being the 101, but it's just not an exciting 101 profile, let alone first round quarterback profile. Like, I'm sorry, but Dart just profiles as a way more fantasy friendly quarterback to me than somebody. I've gone over the rushing statistics for Dart. Like, if you like rushing quarterbacks, he's a better runner than Drake May was coming out of college. So like, he definitely profiles a little bit more. So yeah, that's just for me.
All right, this is from some guy named Jacob Sanderson. It says, "Show me on the stall where Pat Friermuth hurt you."
Emotionally, right here.
Okay.
Because Jacob maybe drafted him once.
KPM wins. He likes Pratt Friermuth. Says that Rodgers always targets the tight ends. I don't know if that's actually true. But Jermichael Finley.
Shout out Dick Rogers.
In a 1 quarterback league, how many quarterbacks are we going to take? I mean,
One.
I wouldn't need more than 2. In a 1 quarterback dynasty league, I mean 3 is fine. It's less about like how many and just more about what kind of quarterbacks. Like all these guys we're just talking about, there's like no point in roster like a Tua or a Goff at value in 1 quarterback. I find those guys are always way overvalued. Pay up for Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, the same way that you'd pay up for an elite tight end in 1 tight end leagues. It's kind of a similar idea. I mean, not quite to the same value, but those guys are worth it. After that, I would just take swings like guys like Justin Fields that have limited outlooks, but we're going to score points.
Speaking of Justin Fields, should I trade a 26-1 for Justin Fields? Nick's is my only other QB in a super flex, finished 3rd the last 2 years.
That's pricey for me, but
it's a bit pricey.
Yeah, I probably would not do that.
I would be asking around the rest of your league to see who else is available, like a Stafford and Aaron Rodgers. If you could go send a 3.
Go get Daniel Jones. That's what I would do.
Like I would rather give up smaller assets for any one of those guys than someone like Justin Fields for my ones. I like to have my ones, especially in June. I like to have those ones because, as Jacob has mentioned many times, you get 1 shot to fire that bullet, right? It's the golden gun from Goldeneye. You get 1 shot, 1 opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted. So let's call that as last question. We're going to take the last break here for YouTube. If you're listening via podcast, head over to the YouTube channel. You're not going to want to miss 5 for 5. Once again, the best game in fantasy football. The best game in fantasy football. I don't know what is with me tonight. The whole mispronouncing of names has got me all turned around. But you're not going to want to miss the best game in fantasy football. Often imitated, never duplicated. Sit tight. We're coming right back. So as you can tell, the graphic is updated. I now have as many wins as the other 3 contestants combined at 8. Ryan with 1, Lucas, known cheater, with 2, and the gremlins that are the chat has 1. Now, last week was an insane week, back-to-back geography-ridden and history-laden 5 for 5s. No idea what's on deck. It has been hard to think about being able to Google some of these, so I know at least people are not sitting there cheating as often. Chat has not been getting them on the first answer like every time the last couple of weeks. So everyone play along. We encourage you, no cheating. We're going to take the chat off of screen. I'm not going to forget that this time. We are all going to minimize the chat. We cannot see the chat. And we are locked in and ready. Jacob, please, the theme for this week.
All right, it's going to be a little underwhelming. There's nothing crazy like the last couple of weeks. It's a return to football this week. Maybe we'll get back to the zaniness later. But JK Dobbins signed today with the Denver Broncos. Aaron Rodgers also signed recently. Nick Chubb signed recently. And so the theme today is summer signings. And I'm defining that. I'm defining that as players who signed before week 1, but after the NFL draft in a given season. Okay. These are all players who at some point in their career were a summer free agent signing.
I already know Chad is going to cheat like crazy to get that win.
I have a feeling Jacob's trying to make like a big overarching best ball strategy point with this 5 for 5.
I'm actually not. Like I very much mixed in. I can tell you there's a mix of summer signings that were completely irrelevant and some that were actually quite relevant. So I'm not actually trying to make an overarching fastball point, but it's aggravating that you'd think that of me, that you'd think that I would be so ideological, but not the case. All right. This player is a 6-time Hall of Fame finalist, but has not been elected to the Hall of Fame.
Is it Terrell Owens?
Incorrect.
Terrell Owens.
The Hall of Fame is like
That is
boomer shit.
he
Can
would
we
have.
be
I don't know
honest?
if he. I have no
Does anyone
idea
actually
how
care
many
about the
Terrell
Hall of
Owens
Fame?
finalists he had, but that's like a decent guess. I think he did the late signing with the Seahawks, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I know like all the drama too behind the Hall of Fame committee, like try to teach him a lesson too by keeping him out. So
I know.
Yeah, it's boomer
Any other
stuff.
guesses?
Why am I supposed to care?
Any other guesses? Or are we
I
holding?
think we're passing. Yeah.
Everybody's passing. All right. I don't have a correct answer in the chat either. All right. This doesn't really narrow it down because they do this with literally everyone. But this player signed in August with the New England Patriots.
Chad Ochocinco.
Incorrect.
ooh, that's a good one.
That's a really good guess.
Oh.
So Tom, you get to guess now. Lucas guessed last time. So this is.
I think I know it now.
Okay, then I'll wait. I'll wait because we get the advantage.
Well, you
All right.
can't wait.
Yeah, no, you have to guess on this one. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you have to guess on this one, or the points are going elsewhere.
Oh, damn it. Freaking chat.
Really?
I'm so
Okay.
mad. There were two guys it could have been, and I said the wrong
You
name.
you also can't block someone out of playing. So like you by Lucas guessing on round one, that means you get to guess before Lucas, but you can't pass and prevent Lucas from guessing.
Like,
All right. 3, 2, 1.
I'll say because it's you. It's probably a cult question. There's gonna be somebody like Dallas Clark or something that's not. No, he wasn't on the Hall of Fame ballot. Hall of
Okay,
Fame ballot.
3,
Reggie
2,
Wayne.
1. Okay, it is Reggie Wayne indeed. He signed with the
You
New England Patriots.
suck.
Thank you.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
There's always a call. That's funny.
There is always a cult question. Insane that Reggie Wayne has not made it into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I knew it was Reggie Wayne as soon as you said it wasn't.
So I immediately thought Chad Johnson, immediately, because he was just so awful in New England. But there's always an Indianapolis Colt, and there only could have been one.
True. All right. Okay. This player played an 8-year career, but had his career high in rushing attempts and yards as a rookie.
And he signed elsewhere.
8-year career though.
I'm not gonna have a guess for this.
All right. After getting blocked last time, I'm going to wait.
Okay. Everybody's waiting.
Wait, can I
I'm
guess?
gonna give-
Can I guess?
Of course you can guess.
Why do people always ask if they can? You
'Cause we're
always
trying
ask.
to-
Well, I
"Can
felt like
guess?
we were
Can
moving
guess?"
on. I was trying not
Yeah.
to.
You're welcome to guess. You're encouraged to. in fact.
Maybe this happened and I forgot. I'm just gonna guess. Was it Leonard Fournette?
It is not.
Okay. Did
Oh,
he ever
that's a
sign in
good
the summer
one.
somewhere?
Great.
That is a good guess.
Oh,
I feel like
That's
he
a
did, but
great pick.
I think he did. Was it the
Yeah,
Buccaneers?
he signed with the
Something?
Bucs, but after he got cut
Yeah.
by the Jags.
okay, yep. I guess that was a summer signing. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that would have been applicable, but he's not the answer to this one. Nobody else guessing? All right. Okay. This player signed on the same day that Reggie Wayne did, August 28th. I don't mean literally on the same date as Reggie Wayne, but just the same date, but it could be in a different year. With the Kansas City Chiefs.
Ooh.
Like the Patriots, might not narrow it down. They also love a late signing.
Jerick McKinnon.
Incorrect.
Good guess.
I was like, why not?
oh gosh. Oh, that makes it way tougher because I was originally thinking Arian Foster, but he I don't think he was ever on the
I
Chiefs.
think I know who it is.
Did Kareem Hunt ever resign in the summer, right before the season?
Okay, new rule. If you guys mention a name, that counts as a guess.
Okay, yeah, that was a
Alice
guess,
Clark.
to be clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
That is
I'm waiting
correct.
still.
Okay, you're still waiting. The chat
That's
does not
what I
have
thought it was. So I'm glad you were
can
wrong.
you can keep waiting. Okay. I think this clue is probably going to do it for Lucas. But all right, this player currently holds the NCAA FBS record for most rushing yards in a single game.
Oh no. What is his last name? Oh my gosh.
Okay, you do need the last name.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Melvin Gordon.
Incorrect.
No.
He did set the record, but it was surpassed by this person.
You're muted.
Thomas, Ryan, either one of you.
I get to go, right?
Well, either one of you can go.
Okay, I just wasn't
Let's
sure if
guess
I
last
answered in
time.
the last one. It is the man that created an entire segment on this program. It's Samaje Perine, the man above the P
That
line.
is correct.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that is correct. The chat obviously also got it on
I
that clue.
picked
But
every pick is something about Jacob. Jarek McKinnon, Samaje Perine.
you got to realize, especially with this category, like it's not like there's really a way for me to.
Oh my gosh. I
and-
completely forgot that P.
Suck
Ryan
it,
had
Lucas.
that absolutely just one
like it's not like I can
ridiculous
look up
game.
random guys on.
Oh my gosh.
Lucas.
Hmm.
Yeah, the P line.
All right,
Shout out the P line.
that is 3. What do we got for points now? We got Tom at 7, and we've got.
Tom has 7.
Is that it? Have we only done 2?
Yep, because we've
That
only
was
had
only
2
two,
questions.
yeah.
We were just actually getting through many of the questions, so shout out.
All right, sounds good. Okay, this next one. I'm trying to figure out what order to do this in. All right, here we go. This player's we make it a round 1 guess. I'm predicting we're gonna get a round 1 correct answer. So everybody lock in. Lock in with your buzzers. Okay.
As I've got things screaming behind me.
Okay. This player's first name is a homonym synonymous with electronics, and this player's last name is a homonym synonymous with Catwoman.
What?
I don't know what a homonym
We all know what a
is.
homonym is.
No.
Yeah. Don't tell them. Do not tell them. No, do not tell them, Jacob.
I know what a homonym is, but all of these sound like things just break my brain.
Catwoman.
I don't know what a homonym. I'm waiting. I don't know what that means. So,
Okay,
told you guys at the start of the show I'm a moron.
no. Well, the chat's getting it. So
Oh my god.
5,
Hold on,
4,
the chat
3.
got it.
I'm so
Correct.
disappointed in
2.
myself.
Okay, homonym with electronics and Catwoman.
Yeah, 3.
So
Okay.
the
2,
only
1.
the player.
Enough. I'm being
gonna
less
do something
generous.
stupid
Sony
like
Michelle.
Michelle.
Sony
Yeah,
is the
fucking-
electronics.
Oh!
Michelle Pfeiffer played Catwoman.
Oh,
Good job, chat.
The
job,
only
chat.
the
That
only
clue was
player-
made for me and I didn't get it.
Oh.
I'm really upset. That was meant to keep me in the game and I did not.
I was a coward. I said it.
Yeah,
I
chat.
was a
Who was
coward.
it in the chat? Someone in the chat got that like fucking immediately. It was Corey Schmedeki. Absolutely nailed it.
Shout out. I was a
Um,
coward. I
so-
didn't say the name. I had it on tongue. I'm a coward.
All right. We got 5 points for the chat, 7 points for Tom. Shout out to Michelle Pfeiffer. Also on the MILF Island.
Absolute baddie.
Absolutely. All right. A homonym. People in the chat want to know what a homonym is. It means something that sounds like or is spelled like something else that has a different meaning. So
All right.
Michelle, and Sony.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Okay.
I had it.
This player played for 6 National Football League teams, but his most productive season came with his last NFL team.
Okay.
Oh, that's actually not true. His most productive season came with the team that he signed with in the summer, is what I meant to say.
Okay.
So the last NFL team.
It's not his last NFL team.
He's trying to disguise the question. Then that's too crazy for me. I'm not going to know that.
I have to wait.
But I'll re-clarify. He played with 6 NFL teams. At least one of them he signed with in the summer, and that season was his most productive in the NFL.
Okay.
All right. We're getting nothing. Okay. This player was a round 2 draft pick out of Ohio State University.
Terrell Pryor.
Incorrect. That was a round 2 pick in the supplemental draft, I believe.
See, I don't know. It seems like something that you would do. So,
Ohio State.
Paris Campbell.
Incorrect.
I'll wait.
That was a round 2 pick of OSU.
I'll wait.
Okay, Tom's waiting. All right, clue number 3, and only Tom gets first dibs. The team that this player signed with in August of the given season was the Houston Texans.
Signed in the summer. Signed in August. 6 seasons, but the most productive, or 6 teams.
6 teams.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go off the rails and say like Matt Schaub.
Incorrect. Ryan Lucas, you're back at the game here.
The Houston Texans.
Yeah, that's the thing that's now throwing me off, which is
round 2 out of Ohio.
Okay,
State.
I'm waiting, I guess.
All right, 5, 4.
Yeah, I guess
3,
I'll pass.
2. Okay, everybody's passing. Chat doesn't have it yet either, so everybody's passing. We're going to clue number 4. All right.
I'm gonna be mad.
This player's only 1,000-yard season as a rusher and his only playoff victory in his career both came in this season with the Houston Texans. Ryan or Lucas?
I don't want to help.
Texans running backs.
I'm going to say Carlos Hyde. I know it's wrong.
That's correct. 2 points.
Oh, good job.
Seriously? I thought he was way more productive with the 49ers, which is why
He never hit 1,000 yards with the Niners,
he
but he did
sucked with the
randomly hit
Niners.
1,000 yards with the Texans that year.
Those were the
my gosh.
Matt
Okay, I
Breida
should have guessed
years.
that at the last question, but I didn't think he was productive with the 49ers.
This was the year. So he signed with the Chiefs. The Chiefs cut him at the last minute, and then Lamar Miller had an ACL in training camp. So he catches on with the Texans, and he grinds his way to 1,000 yards. This is the year that they won the playoff game starting Brock Osweiler.
That's so disgusting. Yeah, Lamar Miller was in my mouth, but I knew that wasn't a summer signing.
Hey, 2
Generational
points
pause.
on the board.
Yeah, there you go. You are on the board. Okay, so 2 points for Lucas, 5 points for the chat, 7 points for Mr. Thomas Tipple, 0 points for Ryan Heath, but everybody's in range. You guys got 2 clues. Anyone could get this. Going to the final player. All right. This player played for 5 NFL teams, and on multiple occasions, he signed with a team after the NFL draft, but only one of those was before the start of the NFL season.
There's 4 players I can think of, but I'm not
I'll
doing
repeat.
it there.
Played with 5 NFL teams. On multiple of those, he signed as a free agent post-NFL draft, but only one of them he signed prior to the NFL season.
Yeah, that's too crazy.
Yeah, I got way on that.
All right. Everybody's waiting on that one. I'll give the chat 5 seconds.
Well,
I know there's lag.
let's I think when we're all good, that should be
No,
it.
the chat gets that. You guys don't get to just block out the chat. I'm going to defend
Thomas
the
is
chat right
nervous.
here. All right. The chat's not getting there. Chat's got a lot of wrong answers. Okay. The applicable team that this player signed with in the summer is the Miami Dolphins.
Odell Beckham.
That's correct, Ryan. You are the 5-for-5 champion.
Let's go.
Wow. Okay, that was impressive.
The least earned. I couldn't tell you all the 5
Signed with
teams
the Ravens, signed with Miami.
He signed with the Ravens in March. The other one that he signed with post NFL draft was the Rams when he got cut by Cleveland midseason.
Yeah, I knew it was a bunch of teams. I just know like once a year we would get the Odell Beckham has signed with insert random team X, and everybody would move on from that news cycle very quickly. Yeah, that was what did it for me.
Nice.
I don't know. I'm proud. I feel like I earned this 5-for-5 way less than I would have earned the last couple that I was much closer on.
Came
but
from nowhere.
That's what happens. You sit here and do absolutely nothing until the double points round at the end, and you swipe it, you take it away. So yeah, I'm excited. Back on the board, back tied with Lucas. Just got to win one more and box him out so I don't have to do this next year. Yeah, we're on a roll, boys.
All right, excited.
Yeah,
that'll do it.
Truly impressive. My brain just was not firing thinking of Miami. The names that I thought of were like Wes Welker or like just really
Odell Beckham will be best
obscure.
remembered as a Miami Dolphin. Like in 10 years, when people are like, remember Odell Beckham, and it'll be like he played for 5 teams. Like, yeah, the Giants, the Browns, maybe the Rams. They'll be like, oh, right, the Ravens. And people are like, yeah, let's play for the Dolphins. You're like, what? Played for the Dolphins?
So shout out Ryan. He gets the updated graphic. He gets the win this week. Man, that one was one of the tightest. It was really close. Really, really close. So shout out Ryan. You got the win. No crash out. Good thing you got the win. You're not here next week. You're going to hope whatever guest sits in the chair can pull through for you. Stay tuned on that.
I get their points if they win.
Yeah, it is. That is the rule of the game. That's why, when
can I pick the guests? Do I get to like choose a champion?
No, you do not. Okay, no, you do not. Guests have. If people are wondering, guests have swayed the outcome of a competition because it was Ryan Heath that
me correct
in the points game
forever appreciative.
Season. So shout out, appreciate those pickleback shots. That's it for the show. Guru filling in we had the Guru on one time, and we might have been too much for the Guru with our energy and the chat, but we will reach out to the Guru and try to get him back for another hectic. I fear facing the Guru in a 5-for-5 with his vast knowledge of the game. There are two people that legitimately week to week scare me in a game like this, and it's the Guru and Joe Dolan. Joe Dolan is the only other person who I can send random pictures of like Ruben Drones and be like, who's this? And he goes, oh, that's Ruben Drones. I'm like, that's crazy. I send him a picture because I like to do this. I go, who's this obscure running back? He goes, oh, that's Ontario Smith. I'm like, nobody else would know this but you. How?
The only time that my mind goes blanker than when we're 4 questions into a 5-for-5 is every week in the backstage before we go. I go on with the Guru for VSiN or whatever the show is, and he's just rattling off like random guys. Like someone has a jersey in their back. It's like, oh, that's a Browns jersey. Well, I like met this guy, and there's like always a story. It's half the time a player I've never heard of or would not be able to tell you anything about other than their name. Yeah, he's kind of a tank.
He is. Hallen Maxwell, the fact that you don't know who Ontario Smith is means you did not play Madden 2002 enough, because he was a Minnesota Vikings GOAT in that era. Just a terrible human being, though. Unfortunately, a grade A dipshit, and kind of derailed. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was part of the boat scandal, the original boat scandal, not the Stephon Diggs one, not the half-assed one, the real one with the Vikings. Oh, he was born in 2002. My bad, bro. That's on me. I'm old as hell.
Hallen's the one that's like has beaten us at 5-for-5, right? And he was born in 2002. That's a little shameful. Just gonna say, guys.
Hallen. Look, Hallen is a GOAT. This man does not. He's like me. It feels like on Twitter he'll be arguing about some darts tournament right? Some like Div 2 darts tournament in Ireland, and he's going to just be breaking down film on that on Twitter, arguing with somebody. He's another sports lunatic, which is why we're happy to have him in the chat, even if he can't touch this.
I can't use being too young as an excuse anymore. Damn. I wish you hadn't told us that, Helen.
That being said, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Of course, if you want to help support us, there's a couple of ways you can do that. Podcast, 5-star reviews go a long way. They may seem really silly, but they do help boost us up the algorithm. When I tell you we have set records to a degree on Dynasty Points, not just the last 3 months, but last month specifically, because of you guys pushing us up charts with comments, good or bad, 5-star reviews. We are hitting heights we didn't think possible, and we look forward to continuing to be able to do that. So your reviews go a long way. Your comments, likes, all that on the YouTube stream when it closes. It's free to do, and it goes a long way. There's, of course, the merch option, your forklift certified t-shirts still available. You're going to want to go and get one of those before we shut that down here soon. With that being said, your support, we love you every single week. We'll announce a guest as soon as we can confirm. Dynasty Points market report is out on Friday. Andy and I will be breaking down Discord questions, an entire episode based on your Discord questions. That link is in the description. For Jacob, for Lucas, for Ryan Heath, for everyone else at fantasypoints.com, remember that clear eyes and full hearts can never lose, and that your best days, well, like us, they're always spent tilting. Good night, everybody.
What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.